Hello Internet! Several months ago, I asked you all how you thought the story of 21 Pilots will end, and I got some great responses. Now is the best time to theorize about the end of the lore, as the final album of the story will release in a little more than a week. I'm so excited to see what you all came up with. Before I begin, we will be discussing some heavy topics, such as death, so if you aren't comfortable with that, I completely understand, and I will see you next time. But for everyone else sticking around, let's get into it. Lately, it sounds like Clancy is getting full of himself, and that soon he is going to turn on the torchbearer. Maybe he is going to attempt to finish the battle against Blurryface by himself and fail without Josh's help. Number 1. Clancy lately has been rejecting the jacket, which suggests he doesn't want the torchbearer's help anymore. 2. In the recent promo video for the contract, Josh seems clueless about what is going on, saying that after their last show, that's it. This suggests that Clancy is not telling him everything. 3. A lot of Blurryface behind-the-scene footage that was posted recently seems to focus on the relationship between Tyler and Josh. 4. The song Overcompensate heavily suggests this idea. Before gaining the antlers, Clancy was weak and relied on the torchbearers and the banditos all the time for help. But now that he has his own power, he may start to think he doesn't even need help from others, a mindset that is overcompensating for his previous situation. I really like this theory. Clancy definitely has a lot of confidence and swagger to him, as seen in Overcompensate, and that will ultimately be his downfall. It really does seem like the torchbearer is doing his best to help Clancy, but his overconfidence might cost him in the climax. Other than that, great theory. I think it will end by Nico having a last straw with Clancy, but he is too weak to confront him once more because Clancy fights back. Because Clancy opened his eyes, and I think the next era is basically in Nico's point of view and how he will warn the bishops. This is a very interesting theory. The bishops have definitely gotten weaker since we first saw them in 2018, and Clancy has definitely fought back as we see in the Contract music video. I really like this theory. Tyler/Clancy will defeat Nico, but he won't be gone entirely. There will always be a battle between the banditos and the bishops. There will always be a never-ending battle against our inner demons. However, we can learn to deal with them through therapy or talking about it with the people you trust the most. This is the theory of all time. This is the reason the story is being told. There will always be struggles and there will always be victories, but the most important thing is the people we surround ourselves with and who we trust the most. Excellent theory. Not fully sure, but my leading theory right now is Clancy is going to become the new leader of Dima. Nico finally dies, thank God, and is hopefully a nice ruler. Surely, I really just think it's the only way it can end, considering the metaphors behind what everything in the Dima storyline represents. There are things like Clancy dying and the banditos failing that would seem too pessimistic, or if Dima gets destroyed completely, it would be completely unrealistic, since it obviously represents depression and mental health, which you can't just make go away. But, if Clancy is the ruler of Dima, it would kind of be like controlling that depression almost. I don't know, like getting a handle on things. It's still there, but you're in charge of it. Don't know if that makes any sense. Don't worry, Pink Lemonade. You are making great sense. I honestly do think that Clancy will become a bishop in some capacity. I mean, one of the box sets for Breach is literally called Nova Bishop, as in new bishop. I'm really excited to see how the band might go in this direction. Awesome theory! I think Clancy will finally beat his Blurryface and rejoin the banditos. He may not be the same Clancy, but rather one who has accepted the two halves of himself, Clancy and Blurry. I really do think Clancy joining the dark side is something to make the story feel more exciting, with things ending well in the end. 21 Pilots has never been a band about giving up hope. A lot of people count on their music to help them through tough times, and they know it. Having it end horribly for the main character just doesn't make sense for what they stand for. Also, Tyler has always been shown as a split character. He portrays both Clancy and Blurryface. Many songs and visuals allude to the fact that there's two separate parts of him. I've got two faces, Blurry's the one I'm not, for example. Having those two parts come together to form a single person would make sense. and have a satisfying ending. Clancy is no longer living in two separate halves and has learned to embrace life, the good and the bad. First off, hey Layton! Secondly, I really love this theory. It's going to be really interesting to see the transformation of the two sides of Tyler. This theory honestly really reminds me of Moon Knight and how it ended. In the end of the show, Mark Spector and Stephen Grant accept and embrace all the parts of themselves and love themselves for who they are. Despite every struggle that they've had, they acknowledge that they need each other to survive. Fantastic theory. Clancy will become a bishop, but abolish vialism and reform the Council of Dima and make it less dystopian and instead a haven for those with mental struggles. Might involve him convincing or persuading Nico, but I don't think there will be a real final battle. I also think Torchbearer will play a role in the government somehow. The letter where Clancy talks about joining/becoming one of them and having to be better or something like that is my evidence. I don't know the exact source. Also, some lyrics like in Tally, how it says you believe in me somehow, makes me think the bishop/people of Dima might actually trust/believe him as a leader. Also, intentions are everything could reference his intentions for reforming Dima. Hey, Clancy for Bishop 2028. He definitely has my vote. I really like this theory a lot, as it seems the story is pointing to Clancy becoming a bishop in some capacity. Great theory. I find it likely that Clancy does become a bishop, his own kind of bishop, more powerful than the Niners, and either Torchbearer has to burn Dima with him inside the towers, or he manages to get Clancy out in time and convince him he's being an idiot. Also, possible fight between Clancy's Banditos and Torchbearer's Banditos. Evidence. All of the letters from the European leg of the Clancy World Tour, as well as the images we've received for Breach. It would be absolute fan service to see some actual dialogue between characters, let alone an actual fight. I know a lot of fans would love to see some action, angst, and drama in the music videos. Needless to say, I'm all for this idea and I love this theory. I don't think Clancy will become a bishop. I have my own theory that everyone is Clancy. The other citizens/banditos are people who are also struggling, but they're not Clancy. They can't save you from Dima, not even Torchbearer, which I think he can represent Jesus. Only Clancy has the power to seize, to destroy Blurryface, to defeat his own demons. But I don't think there's defeating that part of you. Life will always be a constant push and pull. I think it's meant to be this way forever, until Clancy dies naturally and not becoming a glorious goner. If he does die in that way, that means he would have won the fight against Blurryface. I think we will see Clancy's death in Breach. He will win. First of all, I'll talk about this later in the video, but I don't think Clancy will die. Secondly, I really love this theory. It's so beautiful, and I'm trying not to think too hard about it because I'll start crying. I love the comparison to Jesus too. It's honestly cool how certain points in this story compare to the story of the Bible. Excellent theory. Torchbearer sacrifices himself to save Clancy, as Clancy realizes he can't lead the Banditos or defeat the system of Dima on his own. Clancy is slipping into the mindset that he alone can save himself and the people, which is dangerous. There are also many religious themes throughout the lore, so a Torchbearer sacrificing himself out of love for Clancy and the Banditos would align. This kind of goes along with the last theory, and I totally see it. Clancy will definitely need to rely on someone to defeat Dima fully. Great theory. This might just be me being delusional, but Clancy literally can't die because that would go against everything the band stands for. Stay alive, how there's always hope, you know? I think it will end with something like a truce or a contract. The contract? All this stuff with the blue is scary, though. Like I said, with the themes of mental health and hope throughout the whole story, it simply wouldn't make sense for it to end in Clancy's death. Plus, we know the new single will be called The Contract, so Clancy finding a middle ground with Nico or something would make sense. This is very important to remember. Thank you for bringing it up. This whole story is a metaphor for mental health, and it's important to remember that no matter how the story ends, it will end in a way that makes sense to the metaphor. Get this Clancy dying propaganda out of my house. Great thoughts. Thank you for sharing. Actually, this next one is a little long. I really love it, but I will let them speak for themselves. I think that the narrative will end with Clancy eventually becoming a bishop, driving Blurryface out of Dima, like the Heavy Dirty Soul music video. I think it's gonna be a cycle. Throughout the entire story, we see Clancy fighting. He is trying to overcome his mental health struggles, but Clancy is tired, and we see from his letters that he no longer wants to fight off the bishops, aka his mental health struggles. He just wants to live with them. When struggling with mental health, sometimes embracing "this is just who I am" feels empowering, even if in actuality it's hurting you. It feels like you're taking control. The line also supports this "did I disappoint you?" Will the torchbearer be mad at him if he changes who he is, or will he keep the memories of who I was before? Speaking of the torchbearer, in his first letters to Clancy he said, "We must destroy them or we will become them, and if we become them, we must do better." Remember, the bishops represent all the mental health issues Tyler faces. So, by the torchbearer saying that, he is saying we must overcome our minds, and if we don't, we will be completely consumed by our problems. And if we become completely consumed, we have to get ourselves out of it. But he ended his second letter with the cryptic lines, "We must do better, Clancy, we must do better." Therefore, Clancy became them. We also never see for certain what bishop is driving the Heavy Dirty Soul car. All we see are hands that are completely painted black. Who else is painted black? You guessed it! And think, the new single is called The Contract. Where have we heard of a contract before? In Scaled and Icy. I see no volunteers to co-sign on my fears. I'll sign on the line alone. Remember that Scaled and Icy was when Tyler was captive under the control of the bishops. The bishops wanted him to sign something, and Tyler nearly did because he was alone. No volunteers to co-sign on my fears. However, Josh/the Torchbearer saved Tyler from signing. But now, after the events in Paladin, Tyler is left alone and on the line. Maybe in Scaled and Icy, the bishops were trying to recruit Clancy. That would make sense with the whole Clancy is dead thing. The bishops could have truly believed that the rebellion Clancy was leading was over because he was no longer Clancy. He was a bishop himself. Breach is the name of the new album. Lastly, I think it's odd that when we first got photos from the contract/breach, they were posted with the audio of the birds from Paladin Strait. I think that this album is going to show us Clancy's fight against Nico and the bishops that occurred after Paladin, before he eventually concedes and becomes a bishop. The album will end with Clancy as a bishop now, getting in the car and driving Blurryface away. Only this time, Clancy purposefully crashes to give Blurry a chance to escape. Blurryface, symbolizing Tyler's struggles, then goes on to become the new Clancy, symbolizing Tyler's confidence and strength. And so, it's all a cycle. Maybe they'll choose to break the cycle with Bishop Clancy, or maybe they won't. I think we are going to break the cycle, but not without struggle. Maybe with Clancy sacrificing himself or having a scrape with the dark side. Think Luke Skywalker in Return of the Jedi. But I think it will end. Genuinely, the story could go in any direction, but I'm really hoping for a good ending. Evidence for most of this is kind of shaky, but a major one is the IRL announcement of Breach less than 1 year after the release of Clancy, the album, breaking the previous track record of releasing an album then waiting 3 years for the next one. The next point is very much speculative, but I think that the glowing eyes in the music video for The Contract are representative of previous failed Clancys. Clancys that gave in to the power of seizing and took the role of a dictator, who never escaped the cycle of escape and recapture, or who met their end at the hands of the bishops. I would go so far as to argue that the writer of the OG Clancy letters up until the Blue Door event was one of these failed Clancys, hence Scaled and Icy, Clancy is dead. I think these figures being swept up in the storm might represent the cycle ending. Tyler doesn't join his forebears. He stands his ground and faces Nico. Counter-argument, Tyler and Josh getting Thanos towards the end. All in all, I think it's too early to make any hard calls on what's about to happen, but I am cautiously optimistic about the ending. Hello, Clancy. Hello, Blurryface. Let's finish this. First off, I love the Star Wars reference. Secondly, I really like how this is framed. In order to know where the light is, you have to see the dark. And I really like how this sentiment is shared here. I also have no idea where this story is headed. I also have a massive crush on Hayden. What? Anyways, I love the multiple Clancy theory you mentioned. I always kind of thought there were multiple Clancys, but I like how you mentioned that they were kind of brought back in the Contract music video. This is an awesome theory. Thank you for sharing. I'm going to do an impression for this. I apologize to the original poster. This is not making fun of you. I don't know, but somehow Clancy will not entirely win or lose. But, learn to cope with his life. I don't know. Alright, let's see. Our next theory is from Redeemed Zoomer. Dude, what are you doing here? Hello? I was just looking at your channel today. What? Well, anyways, this is a real take. This is such a real take. Thank you for sharing. Throughout the story, Clancy has been siding with the Banditos, but it has become apparent that he's started to separate himself and them mentally, as we see in the Contract and the FPE letters. In the Contract music video, we see Josh as a hallucination Clancy is imagining to get him through the smearing process. I think through all of the battles and temptation of power going through Clancy's mind, he thinks through the torchbearer's perspective of this and thinks about the times he has helped him. But Clancy doesn't want to be tricked again, so he denies himself several times during the smearing process. He is hesitant when looking at the jacket, so I think his decision will be more about himself than the benefit of the Banditos. In the end, I think Clancy will be executed somehow, either by Torchbearer or Nico, and Intentions ends with the beginning of Heavy Dirty Soul. Evidence: the Contract music video and the FPE letters during the European leg, specifically the exchange between Clancy and Torchbearer, and the album cover of Breach and Clancy. I really like this theory. Smearing is such an interesting part of this story, and I've really enjoyed how much it's been expanded on. In case you guys don't know, some people received more letters from the municipality of Dima, kind of describing that smearing is just formed from ashes of the glorious gone. Creepy, but very important. But I wanted to say, Clancy being executed? What? I think we established that Clancy can't die. Guys, don't worry. Clancy will be okay. Right? Anyways, great theory. There's a lot of different ways this story could go, but I think no matter how it actually ends, the very last scene will be Tyler getting into the driver's seat of the car from Heavy Dirty Soul. This is intentionally vague because it leaves just enough room for interpretation. On the surface, the ending is good. Tyler being in the driver's seat now represents the fact that he's in control again. But with the reoccurring themes of cycles throughout the story, it's enough to leave the viewers wondering if this is just the beginning of another cycle. Not sure if this counts as evidence, but the car has made multiple appearances throughout the lore, so it has to be important. I love this theory. The cycle theory seems to be agreed upon by a lot of people, and you guys have kind of convinced me to really agree with it. So thank you all, and I really like where this theory and where this idea is headed. Awesome theory. Well, I have tried to write this outro for a while now, and Animated Blonde Clicky just can't do it. So we're gonna switch to Real Blonde Clicky. Hey y'all. I've made this outro 6 times. I cannot find the exact words or the perfect words to really describe how much this story, this band, and this community means to me. It's incredible to me how I became a fan in 6th grade. And now I'm graduating high school. Everything is just kind of coming to a close way too fast. It felt like Breach was just announced yesterday, and it's incredible to me how the album is coming out next week. But really, this community and this band and this story, and it means a whole lot to me. I don't know what I would be doing if I hadn't discovered this band, and I don't know where I would be, who I would be, if I hadn't discovered this music or this story or these people. Y'all. This isn't like a goodbye, by the way. Like, I'm gonna still make videos and whatever. I still got a lot to say, and lots of jokes to make, and lots of art and music to share. There is a definite new era we're walking into of the unknown. I'm walking into the unknown. I'm also ready to see a story that's meant a lot to me finally end after 6 years of following it, and it's hard to say, like, goodbye to it, because it's truly one of the greatest stories I've, like, ever heard. Y'all mean a lot to me. If you're a first-time viewer, you mean a lot to me. If you've been here since day one, you've meant a lot to me. Like, all your comments, all of your jokes, all of your beautiful interactions, all of the beautiful interactions I had with y'all. Just, it means a whole lot to me. Thank you for giving me this platform that I have. It's not big by any means. I'm not the biggest, like, 21 Pilots YouTuber in the world, but I do feel like it, because you guys just make every video so special for me to release, and every little joke worth it. The story's gonna end in a week. What are you gonna do? Well, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna stay up till midnight. I'm going to listen to the album, cry, watch the City Walls music video, cry, and then go take cap and gown pictures. A lot of things are gonna end that day. Wish me luck. But really what this is for is just to say thank you to you guys for this platform, this channel, the support, the love, the jokes. Really, thank you guys so much. Thank you guys so much for watching. I know this was a longer video, but I really enjoyed making it, and loved hearing all your theories. You guys are awesome. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.